The Andromedans brutally murdered an innocent human girl. Now humanity is sending the largest fleet the galaxy has ever seen to annihilate them. Stunned silence filled the Earth Senate chamber as General Darren Hill finished his report. His face was gaunt, his eyes haunted by unspeakable grief and rage. Just days ago, he had been a skilled diplomat attending a summit on the Andromedan homeworld, working to strengthen the alliance between humanity and the various alien races of the Interstellar Alliance. The attack came without warning. An extremist Andromedan faction opposed to the alliance struck the summit with devastating force. In the chaos and bloodshed, Darren could only watch helplessly as the terrorist leader Raxor mercilessly gunned down his young daughter Alara. Darren returned to Earth with Alara's lifeless body in his arms, his anguished demands for justice and retribution echoing through the halls of power. The government hesitated at first, loath to risk the fragile peace they had worked so hard to build. But when footage of Alara's brutal murder spread like wildfire across Earth's media networks, the public outcry became a deafening roar that could not be ignored. Faced with a furious populace and an implacable General Hill, Earth's leaders vowed to hunt down Raxor and his followers no matter the cost. The Andromedans claimed the attack was the work of a fringe group, not their government, and refused to turn Raxor over to face justice. And so, in secret, Earth began to gather its strength. Resources poured in from across the human colonies to construct the most powerful armada the galaxy had ever seen. Warships, fighters, soldiers, a mighty force dubbed Vengeance Fleet under the command of Darren Hill himself, a man transformed from diplomat to avenging warlord by unfathomable loss. Humanity knew that open war against the advanced Andromedan civilization could have catastrophic consequences. Billions could perish in the conflagration to come. But the searing image of an innocent child slaughtered in cold blood could not be forgotten or forgiven. As Vengeance Fleet neared launch, tensions with the Andromedans stretched to the breaking point. Two species, once allies, now stood on the brink of all-consuming galactic war. The only way to pull back would be to offer up Raxor to face human justice. But with the Andromedans denying culpability and both sides arming for Armageddon, the die may already be cast. Humanity cried out for vengeance, and the stars themselves would tremble as Vengeance Fleet took flight to deliver it. Earth trembled as Vengeance Fleet took flight, thousands of warships rocketing into the sky as one. The sky rumbled and shook as the massive thrusters powered up. Swarms of fighters darted between the hulking capital ships like angry hornets. Mammoth troop transports hung in the center of the formation, ready to disgorge their deadly cargo onto enemy soil. Aboard the fleet flagship, a seething Darren Hill stood at the bridge viewport, watching the blue-white curve of Earth's horizon fall away. He cared not for the spectacle of Vengeance Fleet's departure, paid no heed to the flashing cameras and shouted questions of the press who had been allowed a brief glimpse of humanity's instrument of retribution. He had eyes only for the stars, for Andromeda, for Raxor. The fleet crossed into Andromedan space, weapons primed and shields raised in expectation of resistance. They were not disappointed. A wall of gleaming Andromedan warships moved to block their path, a vanguard of sleek, deadly vessels against the human juggernaut. "All ships engage at will," Darren ordered, his voice cold. "Burn them from the sky." The two fleets clashed in a storm of fire and shrapnel, energy beams and missiles crisscrossing the void. The Andromedans fought with the cutting-edge technology and honed skill of a species that had dominated the stars for centuries. But the humans had numbers, and the righteous fury of a father denied justice for his slain child. Andromedan ships shattered under the relentless human barrage, disintegrating into clouds of molten debris. But they extracted a heavy toll in return. Human vessels erupted into blooms of plasma, spilling bodies and wreckage into the pitiless vacuum. Through it all, Vengeance Fleet pressed on, shrugging off its losses, grinding forward through sheer mass and unbreakable spirit. They had come too far to be denied now. Soon, the battered remains of the Andromedan Defense Force fell back towards the safety of their homeworld's orbital defense grid. Vengeance Fleet followed close behind, Darren standing like a coiled spring, ready to lead the ground assault to capture Raxor. A phalanx of drop pods hammered through the atmosphere, each bearing an elite team of human commandos hand-picked by Darren himself. Their target, a fortified compound in the heart of the Andromedan capital, where intel indicated Raxor had gone to ground under government protection. Darren hit the streets with pulse rifle blazing and blood pounding in his ears. All around him, the capital burned as Vengeance Fleet pummeled military targets from orbit, laying waste to the Andromedan center of power. None of it mattered to Darren. All that mattered was Raxor. They battled through streets choked with rubble and Andromedan bodies, moving towards the compound with relentless drive. Andromedan soldiers fell before them. Raxor's fanatical alien followers charged into the teeth of their guns and were cut down. Finally, they breached the compound walls and surged inside, Darren leading the charge. Raxor's last defenders met them with a storm of plasma bolts. Several of Darren's men fell, but he barely slowed, zeroing in on the location of the man who had shattered his world. He found Raxor in a fortified bunker at the heart of the compound. For a frozen moment, the two locked eyes across a room strewn with dead alien bodies. Then Raxor's guards opened fire, and the moment shattered into blood and chaos. One of the plasma bolts took Darren high in the shoulder, spinning him halfway around. He barely felt it. His rifle was already swinging up to return fire, scything through the last of Raxor's protectors in a hail of steel and blood. And then it was just the two of them. Raxor, scrambling for a fallen weapon. Darren, rising over him like an avenging angel, one hand clamping down on the Andromedan's throat, the other leveling a plasma pistol at his head. In the name of Earth and my daughter, I claim your life. The words emerged as a growl through Darren's clenched teeth. He dragged a battered but still defiant Raxor out of the bunker and stood at the base of his grounded dropship. He activated the external comm system and amplified his voice. Andromedan government, I have Raxor, the terrorist you sheltered. He shook his captive roughly. I demand you surrender immediately for your crimes. Only silence answered him. Darren's face hardened. So be it. He activated his fleet comm. This is General Hill. Commence orbital bombardment of all flagged Andromedan military targets. Almost immediately, the sky lit up with the hellish red glare of kinetic projectiles and energy beams raining down on the planet's surface. Even from the ground, Darren could feel the impacts shuddering through the earth, could see pillars of smoke and flame rising in the distance as Vengeance Fleet ruthlessly targeted the Andromedan war machine. And still they refused to surrender. Darren supposed he shouldn't be surprised. They were a proud species, a militaristic species. Even in defeat, they would fight to the last. Suddenly, his comm buzzed to life again. General, long-range sensors are tracking multiple inbound contacts. Andromedan reinforcements, the main battle fleet. ETA to planetary orbit is 20 minutes. Darren closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, they were hard as diamonds. He had Raxor. He had made them bleed for what they allowed to happen to Alara. But his fleet was battered, depleted of munitions, its crews exhausted. If those reinforcements caught them in orbit, pinned them between the planet's defenses and the fury of the Andromedan battle fleet, there would be no escape. Vengeance Fleet would burn, and humanity would find itself in a war it could not hope to win. Not now, with its forces spent in this all-or-nothing gambit. Signal the fleet, he said hoarsely. Complete bombardment pattern and prepare to withdraw. We're leaving. He looked up at the sky, watching the streaks of fire that marked his ship's fury raining down on Andromedan soil. Somewhere up there, he knew, Alara was watching too. I'm sorry, he whispered. I couldn't finish it, but I hurt them. I hurt them for you. He looked down at Raxor, and a ghost of a cold smile touched his lips. And I have him. He will face justice before all of Earth. This isn't over, not while I still breathe. He shoved Raxor towards the dropship, ignoring the ache of his wound, the exhaustion in his very bones. It was a bitter victory, but it was a victory. He would take it, build on it. This was only the beginning. Darren stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Andromedan homeworld burned below, its defenses shattered. For a moment, he tasted victory. "Sir, we could press the attack, force a full surrender while they're reeling," his XO suggested. Darren's fists clenched. Every fiber of his being screamed to finish this, to grind the Andromedans into dust. But the cold logic of strategy won out. "Negative, we're spent. Those reinforcements will tear us apart if we stay." He took a deep breath. "Signal all ships. We're withdrawing." As Vengeance fleet limped away from Andromedan space, Darren felt hollow. They had Raxor. But at what cost? He watched the casualty reports scroll by, each name a weight on his conscience. The journey back to Earth was tense. Crew members celebrated their victory, but Darren saw the haunted looks in their eyes. They'd seen too much death. When they finally reached Earth orbit, crowds filled the streets below. Cheering faces plastered on view screens throughout the ship as they made their descent. "Hero of humanity!" they chanted as Darren marched Raxor down the shuttle ramp in chains. He wanted to scream at them, tell them the truth of what they'd done. Instead, he forced a grim smile and waved to the cameras. In the days that followed, Darren found no peace. While humanity reveled, the political fallout spread like wildfire. "The Interstellar Alliance cannot condone such wanton aggression," the Rigelian ambassador bellowed during an emergency session. "Earth must be held accountable." Other races rose to Earth's defense. "They were protecting their own," argued the Centauri representative. "Any of us would have done the same." The coalition that had kept the peace for centuries was fracturing before Darren's eyes. On Earth, the Warhawks circled. "We've shown our strength," Senator Hawkins thundered from the Senate floor. "Now's the time to press our advantage before the Andromedans can regroup." Admiral Chen disagreed vehemently. "Our fleet is in tatters. Our crews are exhausted. We need time to rebuild, not start a war we can't win." Darren watched it all unfold, feeling like a passenger in his own life, until the day everything changed again. "Sir!" A breathless aide burst into his office. "We've intercepted Andromedan communications. They're coming for Earth." Ice filled Darren's veins as he scanned the report. A massive armada, dwarfing even Vengeance fleet at its height. The Andromedans weren't interested in limited retaliation. They were coming to end humanity. Within hours, Darren found himself addressing the combined leaders of Earth and her colonies. Faces etched with fear stared back at him from screens across the solar system. "I won't lie to you," Darren began, his voice hoarse. "What's coming may be the greatest threat humanity has ever faced. But we didn't come this far, didn't spread across the stars, by backing down from a fight." He leaned forward, locking eyes with each leader in turn. "We struck first, and now we'll pay the price. But we'll pay it together. Every ship, every soldier, every scrap of technology we have. United, we might just have a chance." Darren paused, the weight of a species on his shoulders. "I led us into this war. Now I'm asking you to follow me one more time. Not for vengeance, but for survival. Who's with me?" One by one, voices rang out in support. As the plan to consolidate Earth's defenses took shape, Darren allowed himself a small flicker of hope. They would face the coming storm together. And may whatever gods were listening have mercy on them all. The Andromedan armada loomed on the edge of Earth's solar system, a vast cloud of warships that blotted out the stars. Darren Hill stood on the bridge of his flagship, his face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. "Status report," he barked. His XO responded, "Vengeance fleet is at 60% strength, sir. We've integrated ships and troops from the colonies, but it's not enough," Darren finished. He knew the odds. They all did. The first Andromedan ships punched through Earth's outer defenses like they were made of paper. Orbital platforms erupted in silent explosions, their fragments raining down on the planet below. "New York is gone," a communications officer reported, his voice cracking. "London, Tokyo, Beijing." Darren clenched his fists as casualty reports flooded in, millions dead in minutes. He keyed the fleet-wide comm. "This is General Hill. All ships engage the enemy. We stop them here, or humanity falls." Vengeance fleet surged forward, guns blazing, but for every Andromedan ship they destroyed, 3 more took its place. "Sir, we can't hold them!" his tactical officer shouted over the din of klaxons. Darren's mind raced. A desperate plan formed. "Prep a strike team," he ordered. "We're taking their flagship." Minutes later, Darren led a squad of Earth's best through the halls of the Andromedan command ship. They fought their way to the bridge, leaving a trail of alien bodies in their wake. The doors hissed open. Darren came face to face with Supreme Commander Galvac. "Order your fleet to stand down," Darren growled, pressing his pistol to the alien's head. Galvac's eyes narrowed, but he complied. The ceasefire broadcast echoed through space. On Earth, millions fled burning cities as evacuation efforts kicked into high gear. But Andromedan ground forces ignored the order, pushing deeper into human territory. Darren turned to Galvac. "You want this to end? Give us Raxor." The alien commander's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Very well. The terrorist is yours." Raxor was brought to the bridge in chains. Darren's hand shook as he faced his daughter's killer. He activated the comms array. "Attention, Andromedan fleet. We have Raxor in custody. Withdraw your forces and we'll—" The transmission cut off. Galvac's officers stormed the bridge, guns blazing. In the chaos, Raxor slipped free. Darren lunged for him, but a stray shot caught the Andromedan in the chest. Raxor crumpled to the deck, dead. Darren and his team were pinned down, their bargaining chip gone. Through the viewport, he watched helplessly as the Andromedan fleet tore apart the remains of Vengeance fleet. Earth's defenses crumbled. All seemed lost. Then one of Darren's officers called out, "Sir, we found this on Raxor's body." He held up a small data chip, crudely etched with alien script. Darren's eyes widened as he examined the crude etchings on the data chip. "What is this?" His officer leaned in, squinting at the alien script. "Sir, it's schematics for some kind of bioweapon." Darren's breath caught in his throat. He scanned the data, his mind racing. This was it, their last desperate chance. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command," he ordered, his voice hoarse. Minutes later, Darren found himself explaining the unthinkable to what remained of Earth's leadership. "We have no choice," he said, his words heavy. "It's this or extinction." The silence that followed was deafening. Then a single word. "Approved." Darren turned to his crew, their faces pale in the flickering light of the damaged bridge. "Prep our remaining fighters. We're going to deliver a payload." As the Andromedan fleet pummeled Earth's defenses, human ships darted between the explosions. They released canisters over cities crawling with alien invaders, a deadly mist descending. Hours ticked by. Darren watched the tactical displays, waiting for any sign of change. Then reports began flooding in. "Sir, Andromedan ground forces in New Delhi they're collapsing." "Same in Cairo, sir. They're falling like flies." Darren zoomed in on helmet cam footage. Andromedan soldiers writhed on the ground, their bodies twisting and warping. Some lay still, while others shambled aimlessly, their eyes vacant. On the Andromedan flagship, Supreme Commander Galvac stared in horror at the reports streaming in. His troops were being decimated not by human weapons, but by an invisible killer. "All ships, full retreat," he bellowed. "Get us out of this system now." Darren watched as the massive Andromedan fleet turned tail, fleeing Earth's orbit. He keyed his comms. "All available ships, pursue and deploy the bioweapon. Don't let them escape unscathed." Earth's battered fleet gave chase, firing canisters of the deadly pathogen at any Andromedan ship in range. Alien vessels faltered, drifting off course as the virus ravaged their crews. As the last Andromedan ships winked out of existence, jumping to light speed, an eerie quiet settled over Earth's orbit. Darren stepped off his shuttle onto the scorched earth of what had once been downtown Los Angeles. The stench of smoke and decay assaulted his nostrils. Broken buildings loomed overhead, their shattered windows staring down like accusing eyes. In the distance, a squad of hazmat-suited soldiers cornered a lumbering figure, an Andromedan, its body grotesquely deformed by the virus. They opened fire, and it crumpled to the ground. Darren surveyed the devastation stretching to the horizon. The price of victory lay bare before him, a world in ruins, its population decimated. He had saved humanity, but at what cost? A cold wind whipped through the empty streets, carrying with it the whisper of an uncertain future. The bioweapon was out there now, a Pandora's box that could never be closed. Darren knew that this victory was just the beginning of a new, terrifying chapter in human history. He squared his shoulders and turned to face the grim task of rebuilding. The real work was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.